Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say from my colleague Christian-Emil Ore that he's very sorry not to be here. He had got his diary mixed up and is in a different corner of the world at this moment. But I will try to do justice to him. Now, we have just come from the very large view of how the web can support languages. And I'm going to bring it back again to something fairly local, i.e. What each language community should look for and wish for when it comes to documenting and, above all, administrating their own language. I think of the electronic dictionary as a knowledge base about language, with language as its access point. And obviously, this access should be fast, easy, and intuitive, because it's going to be used by people who are not interested in language as such. And the results should be reliable. They should conform to what's offered and promised, and they should conform to what the language community agrees is a true representation of their language. And without that, you really only have word lists and unsubstantiated claims. And I think this is the difficulty about the pure web approach by somebody who doesn't speak the language. You just don't know what you get. So users should get meaningful results from an easy-to-use and outwardly simple query system, and they shouldn't need more than basic reading and writing skills to make sense of what they get. And now you come to the next point, which is that good quality dictionaries, they come expensive. And in fact, a lot of the expense comes from just getting your materials together. This has become easier, but even today, I would say that what is actually on the web from any language is only a very small and limited part of what you need to make a good dictionary. And the days of fieldwork are by no means over. I think when we produce a dictionary, whether it's paper or on the web or whatever, we ask them to believe that the dictionary is truthful and exact. And given the diversity of today's linguistic and social landscape, I also think that then you have to allow users to look the editors in the cards. And I'm not the only one with these ideas. After all, dictionary after dictionary is coming up with access to the materials, linked to corpora and so on. This is something that I think should be in the quality basis of any good lexicographical product, so that you can check the background of it. And this presupposes a production system which includes linkage to raw materials, linkage to the source for normative decisions, because somebody's got to make these decisions. And you need a fine-grained and systematic dictionary database format. Even if the search system looks simple, it should give guaranteed results, and for that you need a fairly fine-grained basis. I think you also need to be prepared to deal with heterogeneity, because if you are going to give a representative presentation of the spoken and written vocabulary of a language, you have to also include in your plan that you're going to be dealing with materials from before or outside the standardized lexicon. After all, the uninstitutionalized languages of the world will not have a standard orthography. That goes without saying. And dialect interest is on the rise all across Europe. And for Norwegian, including the spoken language, the dialects has been on the cards right from the beginning, since we have a standardization model which says that any dialect word that has an expression in the standard should a vocal expression should also have an expression in the nynorsk orthography. And of course, this orthography has been revised several times since 1860. So not to deal with heterogeneity would mean falsifying the total picture of the language, I think, and to some extent this is what happens, I believe. No, I'm going the wrong way about this. There we are. Our raw data cover the period. I'm now talking about the dictionaries produced from the University of Oslo. And we have very heterogeneous collections covering the period from 1600 to today, and they are collected basically from 1930 onwards. There is a corpus of 90 million tokens covering text from 1866 onwards. There are electronic slip archives, digitized old paper archives, and there are other digitized dictionaries. The National Library in Norway started a massive digitation of its Norwegian publications back in 2009, running into several 100,000 publications by now. And this is searchable on the web from Norwegian IP addresses, so we use that too. And it's a very good support. We were talking about stopwords. This table shows you how the stopword appearance changed around 1940 for Norwegian. All of these are among the most frequent words in the language, and their relative frequency has changed radically because of a big spelling reform at the end of the 30s. So this means that if we try to lemmatise the corpus from before 1940, we get very, very poor results, since we haven't built a separate lemmatizer for the old orthography. This is just to indicate you that our editors have to be prepared to handle materials that can't come processed and prepackaged. So what you need to build a dictionary which is reliable, which takes into account at least the last couple of centuries, after all, language doesn't change that fast, and which is a quality product. Well, I think first of all you need carefully organized raw data, and I think to some extent this is under-communicated when we talk about lexicography, that in fact something like half the job is done in getting your materials together. The latest handbook that I know about, which deals with lexicography in a general way, Sue Atkins and Mike Rundle's book, discuss this in a very sensible and carefully thought out way, I think. But obviously, since you are dealing with heterogeneity, you need an indexing system. For efficiency, you need a full form register of inflected forms or derived forms. You need a component for checking your sources and evaluating them. You need a component for data analysis, and I'm now talking about manual data analysis, or semi-manual, but certainly which the editor can annotate. And you need a dictionary database with a versioning system, and you need, in the end, an efficient and nice-looking web interface with a simple search system for your public. And I'm going to talk about those points in sequence now. Now, our meta dictionary coordinates all sources, and it has a standard base form, a part of speech, and the status. And it shows, Norwegian is a compounding language like German, and so it shows the compound borders and the POS for parts. It allows cut and paste so that it can be edited, and it has about 570,000 lemma entries. This is what it looks like. This is probably too small for you to get much out of, but this is the word for snare, the English word snare, which is spelled in the same way in Norwegian, pronounced snare. And as you will see, it has forms like snurru, snurro, and so on. The different little symbols show what type of source you are dealing with. But the main point for our editors is that they're all collected under what's going to be the head word in the entry. And you can just leaf your way down through them. The marker is on one of them, which is a dialect word collection from about the middle of Norway, Hemsedal. We have a full form register, which is called the word bank. And each base form is there linked to the relevant inflection patterns. We have a number of tables that generate that. Normalization decisions are dated. Since we have been through a number of orthographic reforms, the latest one as late as last year, you need to know from which period, from then to then, whatever it is, was valid. So in theory, we can expand this backwards, and we can put in the 1917 to 1940 orthographic standard, and that would deal with some of our problems with the older stages of the written language. Each entry in the word bank is linked to one or more dictionary entries, so we have the semantic link, and that makes it possible to separate homographs. And we can generate inflection patterns on the web. We're doing that for the school dictionary. And we can add information about older stages, as I was saying. This is the word bank itself. At the bottom here, you actually have the full form, the tagged full forms. The dictionary link sits up in the corner. But the main thing is that this can be updated and adjusted any day of the week. And in fact, whenever we get mistakes pointed out by the public, which happens every day, we go into the word bank and make the adjustments. And then it'll be corrected the next time we upload the dictionary. This is the school dictionary that I've referred to in a question session earlier. It carries Nynorsk and Bokmål in parallel. You can choose whether you want to see both or only one of them. And you will see in pale blue after the head word in the entry a grammatical code. In this case, it's the verb rope, shout, which has 3 possible inflection patterns in Nynorsk, and this is what you get if you click on the little V. This is very popular with school pupils because they get the full forms and they don't have to guess whether they have understood the abbreviations correctly, as you had to in older school dictionaries. And we have been and the Norwegian teachers like it very much too, because they don't have to write it on the blackboard. They can just tell their students to click on the little V and they will get the pattern. Now, one permanent issue when you're trying to write a good dictionary is whether you have good enough data for an entry. And because not every word deserves a dictionary entry. And so we have an entry generation system by which we exclude dictionary words, i.e. if all the sources are older dictionaries, the editor is advised not to edit that word. And it also excludes literary hypaxes and words which lack any of the essential information. We have done this by making a bibliography database and then annotating it. And then this is the bibliography. Here, this is actually a translation of the Kalevala to Nynorsk, and it says that that the Kalevala is poetry, and that isolated word forms, hypaxes, are not good enough to justify an entry. And so this is the entry generator, and if you look at the biggest column in the middle there, it says grunngiving, giving the reason. And under status, you get your advice, should be edited, should not be edited, literary hypax, and so on. And then the reason for this is given in the line beside. So we worked this out when we moved the big dictionary project onto a digital platform. The editors can, of course, overrule these advices, but then they have to get additional materials. If they see that this is not true or not adequate, they can add additional materials, try regenerating, and they'll get a different we would love to have something like Sketch Engine to help us analyze our data, because for the big words, it's getting very big. But we think it's vital that the component for data analysis should be the editor's notepad. And it should contain all the data, it should be stored in connection with the entry, and it should be accessible for further use. For a lot of our entries, the majority of our entries have, I would say, less than 10 examples or items of information connected to them. And for those, Sketch Engine, it would obviously be useless. But for the 500 or 1,000 pluses, it would be great to have something like that. This middle section with all little red icons on it is the sketchpad. You have the structure of your entry on this side, and you look into the collections on that side. So that here you can see the original paper slip, and you can enlarge it, obviously, and see the context. For our corpus is only 90 million tokens, which is not big enough to give really good results with, as I said, something like Sketch Engine. You have to look at the actual examples. But we do have a function where we can generate rows of multi-word, of n-grams with the exact number of occurrences, and then look straight into the little concordance for each of them. And this is the list for the word sus, which means rush. And in fact, the two top ones are good. The third one are all from one single source. Now, all projects have budgets and deadlines, and our planning parameters. I think this is something every dictionary project needs. I don't think you can undertake to produce a given amount of work without planning it very carefully. And so we did a rough calculation based on our materials back in 2004, which we have stuck to, and this means that we are going to be finished by the end of next year with the equivalent to the end of the 12th volume. And this is the website or the part of the application where you can follow your own production. On the top of the red circle, you give the number of lines that the application suggests to you that you can write. At the bottom, you see how much you've used. And along the pipeline, of course, you need to know about statuses, you need to know about quality checks, you need to be able to go back and look at what the whole thing looked like a while ago. And so we have we log each status and take care of it in XML, and you can look at it as an HTML product. And that way, if you make a really bad mistake and, for instance, delete part of your entry, you can go back and recapitulate it and redo it. We find that our users, on the whole, prefer the data mining approach rather than adaptation to supposed user groups. So we have one search box, one wildcard character, no menus, and no user profiling. This means that we know less about our users than we would like to. We depend on manual feedback through an email address simply. But anyway, a search will get you an initial lemma list. You'll get if you choose a word which turns out to be a home graph, you'll get the head worst and the first definitions of each. And you can see the entry with and without its quotations. You can see fixed phrases. They are presented as sub-entries. And the source information becomes visible when the mouse is held over the source. And so here you see we have picked out all the formal information and put it behind buttons like the OED, and that's encircled in the red circle here. And this is what the entry looks like. It's a lot more readable on the web than it is on paper. These are the sub-expression. This is under the entry tid, which means time, or equivalent to Zeit, and it's in time and at about time. that you have here. And here I've shown what you get if you move your mouse over one of the little blue source abbreviations. You get the full source information. What is possible to do, we've done it for the Nynorskordboka, but not for the whole, is to make a sort of staggered search system where you search first one category, then another category, then another category. For Nynorskordboka, you search first the headwords, then the full forms, and then the entire dictionary text. So that if your word occurs in a definition or a quotation, but doesn't have an entry, you'll find it. It's been suggested that for the big dictionary, people would like to look at the headwords, perhaps the dialect forms, which we all list, and then quotations, where they would also be likely to find the dialect form. And that's what I've got for you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Oddrun. This was perfect timing. It just went down to 0, and you said that was it. Thank you. So we have some time for discussion. We're already a bit late because we started late, but I think 5 minutes maybe before we have coffee. Yes, please.
Maybe I didn't catch. Is there a dictionary available online? What is the URL?
What is the
the
URL?
address?
Yes. It is NO 2014. And I didn't give it. I'm sorry. I should have put that up straight away for you. But it's www.no2014.
.no or?
That'll take you to the website for Norsk Ordbok itself.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, he's got it.
Putting it right here.
Thank you.
You can see it. I didn't have it.
Is there somebody else who'd like to ask a question?
Well,
yeah, please.
I'm very envious of your system. I think it looks fantastic. Is it a system that was made by the University of Oslo, or is it a system that a third party has made?
It is a system made by the Unit of Digital Documentation. We have used Oracle. Back in 2002, the University of Oslo decided to use Oracle for all its university collections. But it is being rewritten in Java. And at the moment, we are in the process of sorting out the IPR issues connected to this system. But it is, my personal wish is that we should be able to give it away for free to anybody who wants it. We'd be happy to do that. But we've got to sort out the IPR side of it.
May I also ask a question? In the beginning of your talk, you referred to the quality. The question of quality was something you raised in the beginning.
Sorry, my hearing isn't.
Okay, you talked about the question of quality.
Yes.
Right? And you said that you believe that users should be able to look into the lexicographer's cards.
That's right.
Yeah?
I'll try to. I'll see if I can find an image which.
So does that mean?
Yeah. If you look here at the. I'll have to go and point. If you look here at the entry from the headword itself. If you open this node, you will find a pointer going straight back into the collections. And on the web, it's not possible now, but it will be possible for us to activate that link on the web. And in that case, anybody who's interested can go straight in and look at the background materials of each entry. And the same thing goes for the sorter if we decide to publicize it. It's not really fit for publication at the moment, but it's definitely fit for looking at for other linguists. It's also possible to give access to that from the web. But we have published our collections on the web, and if one goes to the Norsk Ordbok website and looks at the collections, you will find the meta dictionary, the indexing system, which of course has all the links.
That's great. I think that's the way probably you should do it. And I'd like to announce to everybody in this room that right in front of the next Eurolex conference, we'll have a little workshop about this quality question. So if this is something that you're interested in, look out in the program and see whether you'd like to join to discuss questions of quality for internet dictionaries. Is there anybody else? I'm sorry I interrupted the public discussion here. Or are you all already so tired that you definitely need some coffee now? Oh, yeah?
I'm just impressed.
Oh, you're impressed? There's somebody else. Yeah.
Yes, I'm working together with Oddrun, and I just want to say that in addition to all this, from a planning point of view, this is also a very good thing because we can see from month to month how much we are producing and how much we were supposed to be producing, and are the editors writing articles too long, or do they stick to these figures they've got? So this is also very good for planning and producing the dictionary.
I think I should add in my last 10 seconds that the whole thing is funded from the Norwegian Parliament as part of the part of the run-up to the bicentenary for our constitution. The language issue is big in Norway and will continue to be both big and contentious for a long while yet. But at any rate, it has brought everybody to understand that it is important to have a democratic system for looking after your languages, and that it's a public responsibility to keep it in order. And I think myself that since we have been able to do this, it has to become obvious to our politicians that there's no reason why any of the other languages for which Norway acknowledges a responsibility should have less. I hope that we have helped to set a standard.
Thank you again, Oddrun. And